UnBadding. UnBadding. We're UnBadding, baby. We're on a journey, baby. We're UnBadding, baby. We're UnBadding.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of UnBadding. I'm Dana Pereira.
And I'm Jessica Presley.
This week has been like one for the books. What is going on in the universe?
I'm not sure. I feel a little bit, the best word I can use is like discombobulated.
Oh, that is a good word for it.
It is, right? Like I'm like, it's not terrible. It's not great. I feel a little wibbly wobbly. It's just not quite.
There's just like things that happen. Do you know like whenever things happen and you're like, that was weird, or things just feel weird?
Mm-hmm.
I came home the other day from picking up my kids from school. Mind you, it's a Friday. It is 2:30 in the afternoon.
That's usually a great day and time.
You would think.
Yeah.
But as I am driving to my house, the street is filled with cars. Like from the time you pull in all the way up. And I was like, oh, somebody's having a party.
There's an event.
Yeah. Except as I'm realizing I'm driving, there's a bunch of kids in their high school uniforms sitting on my street with their trunks open, drinking Millers.
They're like tailgating on your street?
And they're high school students.
Seems ballsy.
And the thing is, I was like, and then I was like, oh my God, you're so old.
I know. I think back to like how many times do we sit like down by the river?
Just drinking.
Just in the cars. I mean, I don't know if we were drinking. We were definitely smoking pot, but maybe we were drinking. But there were so many times that we were just occupying space. We just needed a place to go.
Yes.
We just need a place to go. People just leave you alone.
And typically I would be, I don't want to say okay with underage drinking. That's the wrong message that I'm trying to send there. But like, if there's going to be, we were always discreet about it. We weren't like trying to be out in the open on a street getting the cops called on us.
No.
We would be like, we got to hide this beer and go down to the river and like sit in a bush.
Yeah, 100%. And we did.
Yeah.
And we did it with success.
Well, I got mad and I really entered my get off my lawn phase.
Oh no, what'd you do? Did you scold them?
I didn't scold anybody because I was afraid that my house would get egged.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm watching these people and these teenage boys were like, didn't give a fuck. They were just like looking me in the eyes, shotgunning a beer.
They're like, fuck you, old bitch.
Yeah.
Oh, if they would have like thrown you some respect and been like, hey, come chug a beer, you probably would have felt okay.
I would not have felt okay with that. I definitely
like, come on, old bitch, you still got it.
But here's the thing, and this is where I'm really going to out myself if my neighbor happens to listen to this podcast.
Uh-oh.
So I text my neighbor because I recognize, now mind you, they were in their school uniform. When you hear school uniform, what kind of school might you assume I'm speaking of?
A high school?
Mm-hmm.
Like one close by in your area?
Maybe one that follows a certain religion.
Oh.
I'm talking
it's a uniform.
Uniform.
Ooh, was it a big one?
Yes. And they are, it has the name of their school on their uniform. And I'm talking the entire grade must have been there because my street, which is fairly long, completely filled with cars and all of these people in their school uniform. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good Dazed and Confused movie. And it looked like they were living their dream, right?
Good for them. Just not on my street.
Just please not on my street. So I text the mom and I say, is your son having a graduation party? And she was like, yes. And I said, okay. His friends are blatantly drinking on the street.
Oh, no.
And I said, if they're blatantly drinking on the street, they're also in their school uniform, which has the name and a big high school on it. I said, one of the neighbors are going to end up calling the cops. And
Oh, God. Was it you? Shit. Did you call the cops?
No.
Oh, okay.
I did not call the cops. I did text my husband and make him call the cops.
Like, these kids are dangerous. They're drinking and driving. I mean, I
Listen,
get it.
The only thing I could think about was that my 2 teenagers were going to be on their way home from school and volleyball, and that these kids who were blatantly drinking with
Day
no
drinking,
regard,
nonetheless.
were going. I'm like, to anybody in my anyone in my neighborhood could get like hit by one of these kids.
True.
And so I did call my husband, and I was like, "There's kids drinking on our street," and he was like, and I was like, "Can you do it? Can you call the cops?
Like, I don't want to be the bad guy.
I don't want to be the one.
I don't want to be the bad guy.
Listen, I don't even like to call for a pizza. So calling the cops would be way outside of my comfort zone."
True. You know what's funny is I actually called 911 the other day also.
No, you didn't.
It was on Tuesday last week.
What, for what?
There was a clearly intoxicated young person walking down the 805 South.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I was taking the kids to gymnastics, and there's this person wobbling along the side of the road. It didn't seem that there was a car pulled over anywhere. So it seemed that he had just found himself on the 805. Or maybe somebody kicked him out of the car. I'm not sure. Looked very intoxicated. I called 911. I said, there appears to be an intoxicated person, pedestrian on the 805 South between these 2 exits. And he said, yeah, it's been reported.
Yeah.
It's like solid.
Well, I mean, that has to make you feel good that other people also reported it.
Right.
I am not sure if anybody reported what I had reported, but I did go to take my son to get a tux for prom. And on my way back.
Sorry, Kai's going to go to prom?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's so. Did he go already?
No, it's June 1st.
Oh, that's so exciting. I was wondering if he was going to go.
Yeah, he's going. And he has like this group of friends that he's going with. So I'm very excited about it.
I'm so glad he's going.
They're color coordinating.
That's cute.
So it's adorable.
What's the colors?
Gold and
for
black.
The school?
Well, the reason
or for the
is
Steelers.
Because I wish that I could say it was for the Steelers. It's actually because the theme is like a golden night to remember or something like that. I'm getting it wrong. That's not correct, but it's something along those lines where he is wearing gold.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. Yeah. So driving back from that, I see the cops had shown up at the house, and they are escorting a line of cars a mile long.
Oh, no.
Out of my street. And I was like, okay, well, at least I don't have to worry about any of my kids dying tonight. Because.
Well, here's the thing. It's illegal.
And
it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to sit next to their child in a hospital. And I'm not just talking about like your kids. I'm talking about these kids.
These kids, totally.
No parent wants to sit next to their child. No parent wants to say goodbye to their child early. I feel like that's the worst thing. That
something so like preventable.
So preventable. Yes. So, way to pussy out and tell your husband to do it. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was something I was like, if one of these kids gets hurt, I would not be able to live with myself.
I hear you.
Knowing that I could have prevented it.
Yeah.
By being a narc, but still.
But here's the thing. If they were all parked outside and inside your neighbor's house having cocktails, that would have never happened. But the fact that they're on the street tailgating with the booze, open containers, it's like you're begging for it.
They begged for it. They also left a litter of cans the entire way down my street.
Excellent.
I had to go and pick them all up and put them into the recycle because I was like...
So you picked them up and you recycled.
I cleaned up after them because I felt a little guilty for making my husband call the cops.
Well, you did your duty.
I did. But, it really made me think about how kids have no fucking fear.
None.
They just live life.
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
And I think that that's oftentimes why kids are kind of invincible.
Yeah.
Because they aren't thinking about the negative outcome. And from like a somewhat woo-woo place, if you're not putting out the vibe of fear, then you're probably not rolling in the vibe of fear and it's going to work out.
Well, think about all of the times when we were young that sometimes I'm like, shit, I'm probably a survivor of something and I just don't know it. It's because I did a lot of dumb stuff.
I cannot not think of the time that you made me drive after taking tabs of acid. And we drove to McDonald's and you were laughing so hysterically that it was freaking me out.
Was I leaking from all of my
Every
orifices?
faucet. It was the eyes, the nose, the mouth. It was drool, snot, tears all at
Yes.
once.
I know. Me and acid, we do not mix. I just
Mm-mm.
end up a soppy mess.
Yes, literally. Soggy is
Yeah.
more like it. But yeah, you do dumb shit when you're young, super dumb shit, and you have no fear.
None.
We had no fear that day.
No, there were lots of times where I had no fear. Times where I should have been murdered by a gaggle of men, but I was like, "Hey guys, what's up? Should we hang out maybe? I'm super wasted."
And super fun.
And so fun. And then I passed out on their couch and then I woke up hours later and they were like, "Dude, you're lucky you ended up with us and not somebody else because like you could have ended up in a bad situation." And I was like, "You right. I'm definitely lucky that I ended up with you."
Yeah, you are. You are, because it doesn't always turn out that way.
I know.
Fear is one of those things that is like, it's easy enough to just like talk about it of like, oh, kids have no fear. But whenever I really look at my relationship with fear, I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit. My relationship with fear has been pretty toxic for most of my life.
Really?
I think so. I think that like I'm kind of like the quintessential person who is like, I don't want to say ruled by fear, but like fear is often a part of the decisions that I make.
Okay.
And so whenever I'm making a decision, right? Like, I don't even know what a good example is.
Starting a new business or I don't know.
But see, things like that, I don't feel like I get fearful about. I think I get fearful
Interesting.
about my children.
Okay.
And I get fearful about myself. Like, what if this doesn't work out?
Yeah.
Or like when I talk to my kids about things, oftentimes the way that I express to them has to do with like the downside of something. And I feel like in a way I'm kind of invoking fear.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of like a common.
Well, it's a technique.
It's a technique for me.
Technique.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a technique for me for sure.
I mean, I also have a lot of fear whenever it surrounds my children. And so I'm always telling them about it, and not in a you should be afraid kind of a way, but more of like a you should be aware kind of a way.
Mm-hmm.
In like, you know, like for example, drunk driving. That is something that could very, 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 very easily happen to where you make a dumb decision and you end up either in jail or 6 feet under.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of people get hurt in that scenario. So, you know, I do talk to my kids a lot about, like, I want them to be afraid of that
Mm-hmm.
because that is something that could definitely happen if they were to, I mean, their frontal lobe hasn't developed yet. I'm like, please make good decisions,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, definitely. Well, when we get into this like whole idea of fear, I feel like it's multifaceted, as
Yes.
most things are in our life. And sometimes fear is like this like very visceral, scary thing. And sometimes fear is this very like exciting, thrilling, motivating thing. Do you feel like you're a person who like kind of gets off on fear?
You know, so I am not necessarily a person that gets off on fear, but fear is it gives you adrenaline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it like make like you know, it's like when somebody's watching a scary movie and there's like a jump scare and then just your whole body is just like pumping with adrenaline. Like there's adrenaline junkies out there.
Do you like that personally?
Fuck no.
Okie dokie. But you do like to watch like kind of true crimey things.
But
Like psychotic weirdness
I
stuff.
do like some true crime stuff. I feel like I'm building some education in my body
Mhm.
to recognize if I might be in a situation where I need to like throat chop a serial killer.
Like kabuki style?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
But if you ask me to jump out of a plane, I think you're a psychopath and I don't want to do it.
You won't jump out of a plane?
I will not jump out of a plane. I don't want to bungee jump. I'm not a thrill seeker.
Okay. So I have this, I don't know, the things that are coming to mind right now are like fear is something that I feel like it's debilitating to me. I feel like I have a lot of fear in my life around many different things like phobias, things that would happen to my family, things that could happen to my kids. But I also feel like on some deeper level, fear is like the way through.
Yeah.
Like we have to lean into fear. We have to lean into the things that are causing inner conflict in order to grow.
It makes you step outside of your comfort zone. Outside of your comfort zone is fear,
It's growth.
is growth, is excitement, is all of those things. An example of that, there are times that I push myself to do something that I am terrified of.
Mhm.
Stand-up comedy.
Right.
I was very fearful of that and I forced myself through it. Am I glad that I did it? Yes. Do I want to do it again? No. I'd rather jump out of that airplane.
Right. Right. So what do you think it is? Because I feel like there's definitely a part of me that is like step into fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will force myself to do things that I'm afraid of. What do you think is that motivator? Why do you think that people feel motivated to step into fear?
I think because your goals are on the other side of it.
That's so profound. Yeah.
And that's what it is. Your goals are on the, if you have a goal of, I don't know, give me a goal.
So, I mean, the thing that I was like super afraid of that I can think of right away would have been like the plant medicine retreat that I went to.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that was this like understanding, revelation, liberation, healing, all of these things that I wanted.
Yeah. And so it's always scary to step into that because it's unknown. You don't know what's going to happen, but you know what could possibly happen. Or you have, like you said, like you knew that all of these things were on the other side of that. So you had to do it to get to that.
But I didn't know they were there. I knew they were possibilities.
Exactly. You knew it was a possibility.
So like when you weigh it out, right? Like the experience of fear was worth the possibility of liberation, healing, all of those things.
Well, it's also a different kind of fear. It's not the same kind of fear of somebody chasing you with a knife or hunting you or, you know, it's a different kind of fear where the risk reward of it is something that you can manage.
Right.
You know, like let's say that you had a goal of, I don't know, starting a social media page and you were afraid that nobody was going to like anything that you posted. But the only way that you can get to the goal of, you know, I don't know, getting lots of likes or being discovered through your social media page is to do it.
Right.
Well, if nobody likes it, you're going to like pick yourself up and move on.
Yeah.
You're going to find a different way.
Right.
So I think that there's like a gauge almost. You're like, okay, well, what's the worst that could happen? If the worst that could happen is you lose your life or your family or that's a pretty big risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is much, much scarier.
Mhm.
And if the worst that could happen is you didn't obtain the goal in the time that you set for yourself or in the way that you thought that you might obtain it, that's a lower risk.
But here's the thing. The feeling of fear in both of those scenarios is the same.
It feels the exact same.
Feels the exact same. It feels life-threatening.
It does.
And so it's like, how do you, I guess it takes a lot of like awareness and cognition to be like, okay, my life is not at stake. The people I love are safe. I can push myself through this. But whenever you look at the things that you're afraid of in that way, it's like such small potatoes. It's like, what am I really afraid of?
Also, look at any single success story that you have ever heard. Where does it start?
I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing it starts with overcoming something.
It starts with fear.
Right.
Everybody has an idea or a dream or a wish or a this or a that. It always starts with stepping into the belief that you can do it, which is fearful.
Okay, so I also have this other belief that like the things that you are the most afraid of that are not life-threatening, of course. I'm not saying like, jumping off a cliff,
You
whatever.
know what? I actually like this because you and I differ here, so I'm excited to talk about this.
Okay. I think the things that you fear the most are kind of like these little nuggets and clues of like where you're supposed to be going.
Okay.
So like if I think social media was a good one. I definitely like stray away from social media. I fear putting myself out there. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it. I kind of like, even with our show, like I'm like, you do it. I'll just show up and run my mouth and drink wine with you and everything else I don't want to know about. Because there's a level of fear involved with that or judgment, let's say. But I think that that's probably an area, if I'm taking my own advice, that I should probably lean into because it's discomfort and because it's an area in which I could grow.
Okay, so I do agree with you to an extent. Again, going back to the example of me doing stand-up comedy, I was very fearful of it, but I wanted to do it. I pushed myself to do it. I pushed through the fear to do it. Same with podcasting. I pushed through the fear of the judgment and people laughing at me or people not listening or, I pushed through it and I did it. And you know what? Glad I fucking did. We're pretty fucking successful.
Right.
Stuff like that. Yes. But then it comes to some other stuff. There are some things that make me very uncomfortable.
Okay.
And I use fear as a tool to keep me safe from that. And like and I'll use one of yours. I don't need to do spicy eye drops. I just don't fucking need to do it.
Physical discomfort is a place that you don't want to step into.
No. And I'm not using that as like, I don't think that the fear of doing that means that I should step into it. I think that, no, I'm good. Like, I just know my boundary with that.
Right.
And like that causes me discomfort. I don't need to do it.
I kind of feel like if I have that strong of a reaction to something, I want to do it.
Oh, you're a thrill seeker.
I'm like, what do you call those people that like pain
Glutton
and discomfort?
for punishment?
Masochist. Yeah, I feel like if I have that visceral of a reaction to something, I'm like, why is this causing me so much discomfort? I need to lean into it. I think that something for me that's like a fear that rules my life that is so stupid. It's so stupid. And I've talked about it before on the show. You know it. Everybody knows it. I'm fucking terrified of vomit.
Yes, you are.
It's so dumb. It makes no sense whatsoever. But I feel like in order to overcome that, I have to just power through. Otherwise, I am like adjusting my whole life around this one stupid thing that rarely happens. Do you know how many times this year I have had physical panic attacks over vomit.
How many?
And nothing has ever happened.
How many?
I couldn't count on 2 hands.
Really?
At least. Yeah, it's daily, weekly, monthly. And I'm like, okay, so, well, we are going to the end of year soccer party. It is May. It's usually not within the time window of like stomach bugs. So I think that we're like it's like neurotic. I'm already thinking about going to Aruba in September and how that could possibly be stomach bug season.
Okay.
It's neurotic.
It's a fear.
It's a phobia.
It's a phobia. That's a better word for it, for sure.
Yeah, it's a phobia. But I know cognitively that like, am I in real danger? No.
Like what's the worst thing that happens if somebody vomits?
I mean, I know what I do. I clean it up.
Yeah.
And I'm not dying. I'm not vomiting. I'm not in a place that I can't handle myself. Like I manage. I'm good.
Yeah.
It's just I'm afraid. Here's it. This is it.
Okay.
I'm afraid of the feelings it causes inside.
Uh-huh.
I'm afraid of the fear.
But every time you are fearful of the vomit, doesn't it cause those feelings anyways?
Yes. It's very like cyclical.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm in a constant state of fear. And sometimes I wonder like, our bodies get addicted to all kinds of like chemical compounds, hormones, dopamine addiction, like we're like, there's certain things that we do within our own bodies unaware that we keep doing because unconsciously our body is, or subconsciously our body is maybe addicted to that chemical compound that's raging through our bodies. And sometimes I feel like I'm addicted to fear.
Ooh.
Like my body's like, yes, this is my comfort place. Ooh, I'm feeling a little bit too comfortable. Let's think about vomit.
Oh, God.
There's your dose of adrenaline. There's your dose of fear.
Have you thought about jumping out of airplanes?
Yes, I have a gift card.
I feel like we need to replace this with something else.
Something bigger to actually be afraid of.
Yeah.
I think I'd still be afraid of vomit.
Yeah.
Part of the plant medicine treat was
vomited to as you jumped out of the air.
When it blew back in my face, that'd be a fucking nightmare. So hold on a second. It's all coming back. It's all coming back to me now. I spoke to a psychic about this.
Oh.
And she said to me, which was very accurate, she said to me, is this attached to a movie from when you were younger?
Did we talk about this? And is it Problem Child?
It is 100% Problem Child. And I was like, oh, yes.
I remember that scene when they were all going around on the ride and just like puke after puke after puke. And then it was like a puking conga line. It was just like one right after the other just started puking.
I'm so glad I'm recording this and not listening to it because it would be a trigger. I think this episode needs a trigger warning.
For Jessica Presley
For
only.
just Jessica Presley. You know what, though? I don't think I'm alone in this.
Okay.
I actually know other people who equally have a similar phobia.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, all of that to say that, like, I wonder about, like, the maybe, like, neural pathways or the chemical, we'll loosely say addiction.
Yeah.
That like my body feels almost regulated by having those surges.
Yeah. Well, there is like the, again, like that excitement and then like that scary.
Right.
And they're very closely related. You get the same adrenaline hit from both of them.
Yeah, it's the same. But like our lives physically are not in danger. Like, biologically, we were wired to like run from predators.
Right. There is such thing as a healthy fear.
Right. And that is good.
Yeah.
You need to have that. Your life is in danger, you run.
Mm-hmm.
But most of our fears this time in our lives on Earth
right.
are not life-threatening.
No. We don't have, predators attacking us on a regular basis.
So I wonder how much of our fear really is a healthy fear. I think like the weight is pretty like uneven.
Well, I mean, I think that depending on who you are as a person, and, this will get into some things, but if you are a young girl that is going out alone, you should probably have a healthy dose of fear and awareness.
Okay, this is totally unrelated, but I have to say it.
Uh-huh.
Do you know, I don't know why this was shocking to me.
Why?
Do you know that men don't have that at all?
What?
Like they don't like go out and they're not like, ooh, there's a dude, there's a weird person over there on the other side of the street. I feel like a little bit scared. I don't think that's a thing that men have.
Okay. That like kind of.
Are you feeling a little shook?
I'm feeling a little shook because it's all I think about.
Same.
I'm so aware, even on my walks in the middle of the day, I have my AirPods in.
But not too loud.
But not too loud.
So you can hear some fucking weirdo behind you.
Just in case.
Mhm.
I am, walking with my fists clenched. If I have something to put in between my knuckles, great.
Yeah.
I usually don't, unless you're a predator, then I absolutely do.
I have a very sharp something.
Very sharp something.
But you know what? And I don't want to generalize, but I'm going to generalize.
Yeah.
Men don't think about that. Like when I think about like, let's say in the winter time when it gets dark at 4 o'clock and you're like, I want to take the dogs for a walk. And I'm like, it's dark out. And he's
Yeah.
like, what? I'm like, you don't think about like walking outside in the dark in a neighborhood? He's like, no, why?
Oof. That's rude.
I was very surprised by that. I had to share it. I don't know if it's just.
But that is
My
a healthy fear.
Yes, I
right?
agree.
Like that is a healthy fear that as a young woman or a woman in general should have. It's a fear. It's an awareness because that is what protects you.
Right.
So there are healthy fears. Healthy fears protect you.
Right.
I am just coming around to the idea that, we have to be on more of an alert. And I guess I did know that already, but to really think about it, that shit's cray.
Yeah.
That shit cray.
That shit totally cray.
Yeah.
So when you think about like using fear as a tool to like motivate you, what specific things come to mind for you personally about like stretching yourself? I know we talked about stand-up comedy. What other things do you use fear to stretch yourself in to kind of maybe like push you a little bit in life?
I think that comes along with every single aspect of your life. Anytime you are changing anything, it can be scary. Whether it's, I want to start a new job, or I'm trying to infiltrate this friend group because they seem cool and I really want to hang out with them, but I'm really afraid of what they're going to think of me, or if they're going to like me, or am I too, open with the things that I say. Can you tell that I have had this experience before? Am I too much? Then go find less. But
we'll talk about that after the show because I have so many things to say.
It's my next therapy appointment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that anytime that you are changing anything, anytime you are stepping outside of your comfort zone and pushing a little something, whether it's joining the PTA or, I don't know, standing up at an open mic or whatever else, like insert whatever thing you want to do here, whatever this end goal is, there's always a layer of fear that you have to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not that layer of fear is paper thin, or that layer of fear is, a pillow or whatever, there's always a layer that you have to get through, that you have to push through to get to that goal.
Mm-hmm. How do you parent through fear with your kiddos when they're afraid of something?
that I really like to acknowledge how incredibly normal that is and how they are not alone in that, and that every single person that has ever opened their eyes on this planet has to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it again is outcome based, it's goal based. And if you want to do this thing, Jocelyn was in a play. She was Alice in her school play. She was very fearful of getting up in front of everybody, but she wanted to fucking kill it at Alice in her play.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what? She fucking killed it as Alice in her play.
Mm-hmm.
But she had to step through that fear. And again, every single person, whatever goal you have in your mind, there's always a level of fear that you have to fucking wade through.
Mm-hmm. And I guess like if there's no like one particular thing, like the end game is like fear that it doesn't work out.
Yeah, but what's that saying? Like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right. So whenever I look at like your overall vibe in comparison to my overall vibe, I feel like you're like a, what if it does work out?
I love
and I'm
that.
like a, what if it doesn't work out?
Oof, yeah.
Right. And so I kind of sometimes like look at the trajectory of our lives and like how things just kind of work out for you. And I feel like sometimes that's just like the wavelength that you're on. It's just the vibration that you're in, because you don't think about the like, I'm not going to say you don't think about the what ifs they don't, because I think it's normal. Of course, people think about what if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
You don't get trapped there.
I try not to get trapped there.
Right.
I've definitely had times in my life where I have, but I think that seeing the times where I didn't let myself get trapped there is motivation also to push through the fear.
So in the times that you did get trapped there, did you notice a different outcome?
Yeah, it takes longer to get there. I think the difference also is I never thought that it wouldn't happen. I just realized it was taking longer. And I was like, well, what the fuck am I doing? Rip the Band-Aid. Do the thing that scares you, because you'll get there sooner if you just
like,
fucking do it.
Goal-based.
Very goal-based. Yeah. Very goal-based. Because I think that I say I think a lot.
I think so.
But every step in our life is another goal, isn't it?
It is. It is. I just try to think, because I know I'm not alone in the fact that I'm a, what if this happens? I feel like I really super fucking try to push myself to like the, what if the good thing happens, not what if the bad thing happens. And I'm actually really hard on my husband about this. And I'm realizing right now, live in this moment, that I'm fully projecting all of my shit on him.
Real-time projections.
Real-time projections right now. Love you, honey. But yeah, this idea of like, what if things don't, like, I want to be positive. I want to hold on to the positive outcome, but like the fear doesn't let go. And even if I focus on the positive, it's like there's almost like this dark shadow that's just kind of following me. That's like, gonna get ya.
Yeah. I think that is also really normal.
I do think it's normal also, but I really want to shift that.
Yeah.
I want to shift, like, I feel like with my kids is like a big one. If I'm going to like be really vulnerable here, like I've kind of shared a little bit on the show that like we have some internal struggles. There's some things that like my kids kind of struggle with. And it's like, I have this pit in my stomach of like, what if it never changes?
Yeah.
Because of my lived experience, because of where we've been so far, it's like, what if this never changes? But I feel like going into parenting, I didn't go into it with fear. I went into it like, love is all we need. I will do everything that my kids need me to do because I love them and I love my family and I want to do right by them. And all of those initial intentions are still the same.
Totally.
But it's like kind of shadowed by this like, what if it never gets easier?
I would just like to say that whole love is all you need thing, such bullshit.
It's totally bullshit. And okay, I can out myself here. I was so naive. So naive. And not naive in a sense that like, I don't know. I'm trying to find words for it. Because I don't think that like love is all you need. I think that you need love and a lot of other shit.
A ton of all. The thing is, I mean, think of how many people you've loved in the past, but guess what? They didn't meet the other requirements.
Right.
So shit didn't work.
Right. Well, and like I am only like 1/4 of the equation. And so it doesn't matter if like my love is as strong as it possibly can be. You know, I'm 1 of 4.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other emotions. There's a lot of other personalities. There's a lot
So
of
many
other
variables.
experiences. But I was very naive. I was like, for example, I was like, it doesn't matter that I'm adopting children that don't look like me. We will celebrate our differences. We will preach how great open adoption is. We will share with the world what a beautiful experience this is for all of us. And I wasn't lying.
Yeah.
I felt that.
Totally.
And there is a component of that that is still true. But like I didn't take into account the everyday life of what it is to walk in that type of family.
Yeah.
And so whenever challenges started to come up because I was naive, I just feel like there was like this little pool of fear that started to happen. Like this is getting hard.
It's
this
retroactive fear.
Right.
Yeah.
It's getting hard. It's getting harder. It's not going anywhere.
Oh shit, my original thought didn't come true.
Mhm.
Oh shit, now what? Now what? Now I'm scared because I thought this was going to happen and that's not what happened.
Right. And that isn't what happened. Now, what about all these other things that I thought were going to be okay that like might not turn out to be okay?
The unknown. That's what that is.
Sure.
It's all the unknown. And we fear the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's so much hate in the fucking world. Because if you don't understand somebody else or something else, then all you can do is fear it and judge it.
Yeah.
So yeah, fear of the unknown is a huge thing. And that retroactive fear, holy shit, that hits
Mhm.
harder.
It does.
Yeah.
It does because you're like, oh shit. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm. Because then on top of that, you're dealing with the fact that you were naive. You didn't know any better. And then you start to punish yourself because you were like, you're so stupid. Like you were just all like, oh, sunshine and rainbows. Everything's going to be great. Well, you know, the world isn't great. So now you're beating yourself up over it. And you have retroactive fear.
Yeah.
That shit sucks.
It's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely rough. Something that I hear is that like the opposite of fear is love. But I also sometimes feel like the opposite of fear is like curiosity, right? Like if we're not just like condemning something right away and being like, this is how it is. This is how I know it is. This is uncomfortable. It's never going to get better. This is the way that what the outcome already is going to be. What if like we opened just a little bit to curiosity and been like, okay, so maybe how I think I'm going to react to this thing could be different.
I like that idea. I think a lot of people are fearful of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, doesn't that sound wonderful? If people could, and yeah, it probably would be scary. And maybe if people could wade through some of that and realize that their life is not in danger or, I mean, I think that you really have to like dish out the fear in what it's supposed to be, like in the quantities that it deserves to be. Being fearful of a saber-toothed tiger, probably don't need to dish that out too hard.
Yeah.
Because they're not here.
Exactly.
Being fearful that your neighbor's kids are going to get drunk and hit you on the way home, maybe call the cops.
what about like irrational fears though? Like I think about like kids and monsters under the bed.
That one's a hard one to dig into.
Right?
Because what we might deem as irrational is totally rational to them.
And I think any person who is in fear feels very valid in their fear.
Yes.
So to somebody else, it might seem irrational, but to that person, it's visceral.
I don't want to compare children to adults because children with their imaginations and their perspectives at such a young age, they're not the same as adults. They're not the same as people that have had their frontal lobes developed, that have experienced life. Like, there's a disconnect there between the two that I don't think a grown man needs to be fearful of the monster under the bed.
100%. But I think the grown man who is afraid of his son getting hit by a drunk driver at 2:00 in the morning on New Year's Eve, I think his fear feels the same as the kid's fear who's afraid of the monster under the bed.
Yeah, but that feels like a pretty justified fear.
For the man?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem like a man. And to the child, it also feels justified.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so it's like, to the person experiencing the fear, there is no difference whether it's rational or irrational.
Okay. I mean, I see what you're saying there, but I also think that that is kind of allowing a pass to people that are like, I fear that this gay man is going to turn my kid gay by looking at him, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that is where I don't want to give people passes by saying that their fear is justified as much as a child with their fear.
I think in that particular scenario, we are confusing fear with judgment.
I mean, I think that judgment plays a huge part of it for sure. But that's what people say they're afraid of.
Right.
And you're like, is that a justifiable fear?
I mean, I see where you're going with it. I see there was like a thing in Target a while back. It might have been like a year ago because I feel like it was around Pride whenever it happened.
Yeah.
And they were putting like, I'm going to fuck up the details, so forgive me. But it was like either Target had put binders or they put like a bikini for boys or something or another that had to do with transgender kids.
Right.
They put it in their Pride display, which is usually up in the front of the store during Pride Month. And there was a whole group of people who were not okay with that. And I think that that had a lot to do with fear.
Yeah.
But I don't, and I don't want to like discount anybody's fear. Because we're all afraid of different things for different reasons. But that, to me personally, doesn't register as like fear.
I think that there are certain fears that come from a lack of love, a lack of acceptance. You know, like me being fearful of teenagers drinking doesn't come from a lack of love.
Sure.
And judgment.
Right.
You know, was I judging the teenagers drinking? Sure the fuck was. But I also was like, oh, I want to protect them from themselves because they're making dumbass decisions.
Yeah,
right
that was
now.
like a love choice.
It was a love choice. So I think that that is another thing that is added to the equation is it coming from a place of love? Or, I mean, you can come from a place of love and fear. But if it's just straight fear and judgment, then I'm probably not going to get on board with it.
Yeah. Okay, so just to kind of round things up, what would you say?
We really went off the rails here.
We just what would you say are some tools or some skills that you use to like work through things that you know aren't physically threatening to your life, but are some things that you want to work through? How do you work through fear?
Fuck the fuck up, buttercup. Pull your shit together. Put on your big boy. No, I'm kidding.
It's not how it goes.
No, I think it always goes
It's like
back.
go in shaking and nervous and just fucking do it anyway.
Yes. I think that is definitely a part of it. I think that allowing yourself to do it scared.
Yeah, don't judge the fear. Yeah.
Do it scared. Nobody ever started off anything perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody started off scared, no matter what it was. Look at your biggest idols. And I think that this is something that helps me a lot through my fears, is that you think Beyonce stepped on her first stage at a mall and was like, got this.
I'm Queen Bee.
Yeah, no, she was fucking scared.
Mm-hmm.
You think that, Giselle stepped on a runway and was like, I'm gonna slay.
Yeah, no big deal.
No, she was scared. You think
anything
fucking, like Steve Jobs started his company and was like, gonna nail it. No, he failed a gazillion times first.
Right.
It's recognizing that it's part of life.
So, in summary, what I hear you saying is that any success worth pursuing is going to require you to move through fear.
Yep, 100%.
Bam.
Bam, boom, bang.
She said what she said.
Yeah, I think that is a good summary of it. You're not going to escape fear in life, especially if you have any goals whatsoever.
And just like people in your life that you have healthy relationships with and people in your life that you have unhealthy relationships with, there are certain emotions that you can have healthy and unhealthy relationships with also.
Mm-hmm.
And fear is one of those things that I personally am working on having a more healthy relationship with.
Yeah, I like that.
Me too.
Well, guys, I think that does it for us this week on UnBadding.
Yeah, it definitely does. And don't be afraid to leave us a rate and review.
Ooh, she did it.
I was afraid, but I did it.
I'm so proud of you. Maybe we'll get one off of that one. And until next time,
we're UnBadding, baby.
UnBadding, UnBadding, we're UnBadding, baby. We're on a journey, baby. We're UnBadding, baby. We're UnBadding.